All right, here it is. Canary in the coal mine for silver manipulation. People's Bank of China advisor recommends China add silver to official reserves. A prominent People's Bank of China advisor has stated that U.S. Treasuries are not safe in the medium to long term and has recommended China increase its gold reserves as well as add silver to its official reserves. If confirmed, this is a potential game changer for silver that is so monumental it could literally blast silver from the upper 20s through its all-time nominal high near $50 and closer to three figures overnight. Well, keep in mind, because China doesn't really technically have silver as part of their reserve system like they do gold, reserves. I'm not talking about fractional reserves when I use the word reserves. Physical bullion reserves is what I'm talking about. It's not like they would have to add some more. They don't have any silver in their reserves. So could you imagine the size, the amount of silver China would probably need to do? I don't know if they do it in purchase in one lump sum or over a spread out amount of time, but even if it was spread out over a certain amount of time, I don't think it would be a long time. They would probably want to get it in a hurry. As you can see them still with gold, buying it out of control. It's from the silverdoctors.com. Even if 90%, I missed one little sentence there. Were China to reduce its U.S. Treasury holdings by, say, $200 billion and plow the proceeds of that into physical gold and silver bullion, as this person recommends, you can kiss the cartel's silver manipulation goodbye. Even if 90% of the funds, let's say $180 billion, were allocated to gold, and a mere 10% of that $200 billion, which would be $20 billion, would go to silver. At today's market price, that equates nearly to 2 years of global silver mine supply, which is approximately 750 million ounces. How much does the COMEX have on hand? Oh, somewhere around 33 million ounces. How about the London Bullion Exchange, or the LBMA? I don't know if it's the LME or the LBMA. Either way, it's same entity is what I'm talking about. I think they have around 130 or 20 or something million. Or maybe it's 105. I think them combined with the COMEX, it's just over 130, 140 million ounces of silver. This, to feed China's appetite, again, if they only took 10% of the funds that they're saying that they need to set aside, take 10% of those funds, which is $20 billion, which equates to today's price of 750 million ounces. That's about 6 times what the COMEX and the LBMA have combined. There's no other market entity that could pull it up, could pull it out of their hat when needed. The LBMA, again, the paper markets claim they've had this the whole time. They've got all this gold and silver, and they put the little fires out here and there when people demand delivery. Could you imagine China coming out, lump sum, matter of fact, they know better, spread out over payments? How about $1 billion a month? We got to spend $20 billion. How about $1 billion a month in silver for China? I've been thinking this whole time, you know what? I know the Webbot talked about $5 a day moves in silver. It said it will come to $20 a day silver moves. I'm thinking to myself, what could it be? What kind of triggering event? I'm just trying to rack my brain this whole time for, last year and a half when I first heard about it, from the Webbot report, saying what can make it move $20 a day, that they don't have control over it, etc. The elite don't have control to keep that under wraps, keep that price down. What kind of event? And I've tried to think of stuff, but I don't think I really thought of anything that I could really come up with that I felt like doing a video to tell you, well, here's what I think they might do, or why they might see $20 a day moves. Here's a scenario. man, I don't know. There's so many different things. But this, now that it's official that this prominent People's Bank of China advisor, which is basically like the Federal Reserve of China, you could say, their advisor is saying treasuries, U.S. treasuries, are not a safe haven in the medium to long-term time frame. And they have recommended that China increases its gold reserves as well as silver. Wow. It doesn't take an economics degree from Princeton. Matter of fact, as I always say, this bozo right here, fake freaking duct tape, green, lime green, whatever, green screen behind him, doing videos in my car. I can figure this stuff out. Anybody can. Spend enough time researching stuff, reading stuff, etc., and you will become your own expert. I've said this maybe once or twice before. What I'm about to say. I didn't know jack crap about databases, Microsoft Access, SQL Server. This is all database stuff, by the way, in case you don't know what I'm talking about. How to create a program or even use Microsoft Access to create a programmable system. Not necessarily a programmable system, but a system that my company that I work for could use. Not only just use it, but start to finish. I mean, the entire company's operation. I didn't have a clue. I barely knew what a table was. If you are in the databases, you know what that means. I barely knew what a table was and what a field was. Right? You enter data into a field, and that data in the field goes into the table. And the table can have multiple fields, if you will. And then you got to make all that talk and everything, right? And all kinds of different Visual Basic for applications programming, which I didn't know anything about either. So I decided, if in my own mind, of course, thinking I'm able to decipher all this crap, all these lies we've been told, I figured all that stuff out. I'm getting in my own mind, I'm telling myself I'm good at that. You know, I can decipher through this crap. I know when they're lying to us. I know what they do. I've studied all this stuff. Let me use the same principle that got that information and do the same thing, learning how to use SQL and Microsoft Access and database applications. In other words, let me go to the internet and try to figure out how to do it. And lo and behold, I found some trial videos, first 4 of a series that started me off. And then after those first 4, I was so pleased with what I read or watched, training myself, that I said, I want to get this course, whatever that is, the basic course, which was a total of like 10 or so episodes instead of 4, and then the medium one, which was another 8 or 10 on top of it. I looked at the advanced stuff. I didn't need it. I taught myself through the internet, not school. I didn't pay $10,000 to go to ITT Tech, bozo school, nothing. No. I taught myself on the internet how to program stuff. Namely, database applications such as Microsoft Access and SQL as a backend, things like that. So, it worked. I told my boss at the time, listen, I'm only going to be out about $150 for trying to train myself how to make an application, because I noticed, this is what I told my boss, I noticed, and this was several years ago, by the way, back in 2008, I said, ever since I've worked here, I see you guys doing stuff on spreadsheets and Word docs, and every time the salespeople pull up an order, whatever, they have to create a new order, type in the name 100 different times in different spreadsheets, different documents. They have to retype it. None of it auto-populates. There's no way to really track it. You can't run a query or figure out what sold what. All that information is not there. Would you mind? I've already paid for this training class for myself for $150 on the internet, and while I'm back there in my office, not having much to do, I'll listen and train myself how to do Microsoft Access to start with. And maybe I could build that into something we can use as a company, at least for the sales department. And if I end up and I can pull this off, would you mind reimbursing me? Absolutely, she said. Please. We need something like that. They don't make anything like that unless you have it customized, because every company is different. It's not like QuickBooks where everyone can just use QuickBooks. It's not like that. So I said, all right. So I got busy. Man, within probably a month, I was well on my way. I already told her, I think I can pull this off for sure. This is good. And So we trialed it for the sales team. It worked. Next thing you know, let's put it in the service team. Now we got a support department. Let's put it there. Let's do the whole entire operations from the time a lead comes in to tasks if we need a service department or the support department to do a task, dealing with the customer, log all that stuff. I did it. I did it by myself. I didn't have anybody paying for my schooling. You know, like I had to go to $10,000 schooling, got a grant, none of that stuff. Nor do I have a degree or any kind of certification in it. But I'm a damn good database guy, if you will, years later. So all the stuff on the internet, I love when people say, oh, you can't trust the internet, can't trust the internet. I've been doing the same thing. Step 1, step 2, step 3. I do it whether it's a conspiracy theory, whether it's exposing the government crap, deciphering some lie, etc., to the best of my ability anyways, to daily life, So anyways, getting way the hell off track there. This is the kind of move that you can see $20 a day silver right here. China, breaking news, right? I can see it in the future. Breaking news, China requests massive amounts of silver. All production mines on the face of the earth, China wants the business, and they'll pay X amount of dollars an ounce. They'll lock it in other words, to start with. That will suck the silver right out of the system, including the paper system, because there wasn't really any silver there anyways. But any available silver will be going to China. It's an event like that. This one right here. If this takes place, I'm not saying it will. I'm reading you what Silver Doctor says. And this guy from the People's Bank of China, this advisor, did in fact say this, which is why he's running the story over at Silver Doctors. He's not just saying, hey, wouldn't it be cool if one day an advisor to basically the Central Bank of China said that No. He said it. This man came up on his own. What's his name? Zia? Xia? I don't even know how to pronounce that. We'll call him Zia. Kind of like Xena, the princess warrior. We'll call him Zia, the silver warrior. How about that? Zia, the silver warrior, recommends not just increasing gold, we need to start stocking silver. Since we already got massive piles of gold and we're increasing them every month, etc., we don't have any silver. You think you're probably going to light a fire under China's purchasing of silver here in the near future, don't you? So let me finish reading this and I'll quit here. At the same time, I missed a paragraph. A former central banker claimed that the U.S. Treasuries were not safe in the medium to long term. In addition, China will launch a new investment fund that will invest parts of the more than USD 3,000 in currency reserves, and I think that's in probably billions, 3,000 billions, in currency reserves in energy and precious metals. People's Bank of China advisor Zia, the silver warrior, recommends holding only 1,000 billion in currency reserves instead of the 3,000, with the rest to be earmarked for strategic investments. He goes on to suggest a gradual increase in gold reserves and recommends pursuing a buy-the-dip strategy over an extended time period. He also advises the bank to add silver to the official reserves. At the same time, an official of the Chinese Chamber of Commerce said China should step up its gold reserves to as much as 8,000 tons. Xi Zhananen, I'm not sure, head of the Chinese State Council State-Owned Enterprise Supervisory Board, has recently suggested that China ramp up its gold reserves within the next 3 to 5 years to 6,000 tons within 10 years' time. China would want to own 10,000 in that period. In other words, in 10 years' time, China would want to own 10,000 tons. This means that China would have to buy almost 40% of annual production until 2020. The significance of such statements can hardly be overestimated. Experience shows that they tend to be accorded with the government and party leaders. According to the statistics of the World Gold Council, the Chinese Central Bank did not make any purchases in 2010 or 2011. Of what? Gold or silver? Because I know they've been buying gold. Official reserves were last reported in June 2009 at 1,054 tons. The gold imports from Hong Kong amounted to more than 100 tons in April alone. In the year to date, 240 tons of gold have been imported. There is a clear upward trend in place. Between May 2010 and April 2011, China imported 66 tons. And a year later, imports were 489 tons, an increase of 640%. In total, imports in 2011 amounted to 427 tons as compared to 118 tons in 2010. We expect not only Chinese private investors, but also the People's Bank of China to continue stepping up their accumulation of gold reserves massively. We believe that China holds definitely a far higher volume of gold reserves than the officially confirmed 1,054 tons. And he says here, we have heard reports from Andrew Maguire, and again, that was the guy who blew the whistle on JP Morgan for caught him red-handed for manipulating the silver market. We have heard reports from Andrew Maguire that a tiny 10 million ounce physical delivery order in London took several weeks to be filled. And when the order finally arrived, it had clearly been sourced from the SLV. Anyone believe that the SLV holds enough silver to satisfy demand for silver as a currency reserve from China? Anyone raising their hand on that one? So, man, all I can tell you is I think it's about to happen here shortly. Will we get out of 2012 before silver starts making a big move again? I don't know. We could. They've had so much control this whole time. They've been pounding on it. They keep increasing the commercials through the COT report. Keep the commercial, being, in other words, the banks, keep increasing their shorts recently. Every week, last 2-3 weeks, big time shorts, more shorts. It's almost as if they're just doing it to broadcast to everyone. Stay away, we're shorting it. You know a big raid's coming. But what if there's no big raid? Well, then they take a massive beating, like they always have been, by the way. This short position, whoever's held it over time, loses, ultimately. But if you're the government, again, JP Morgan's client is the one who they're shorting the market. And they're just using JP Morgan as the broker or vehicle, if you will, to short the market. But if that customer is the United States government, then they can short the hell out of the market whenever they want, take a massive beating as the prices rise whenever they want. Every time it moves an inch, they take a beating. They've got a printing press. So it doesn't matter. Right? If this was a business or a group of investors that JP Morgan was talking about, well, we hedge for our investors. We have investors that are hedging the silver market, which make it look like we're shorting it. They're shorting it through us, so it looks like we're shorting it. It's their position, it's their hedges. Well, who's they? Brokers? Some other brokers? No. Some customers? No. Some big institutions? No. How about the federal government? Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly who it is. Therefore, they can short it till they're blue in the face and take a beating when the prices rise. Every time it rises, they take a beating. It won't hurt. They've got a printing press. Doesn't hurt at all. It's like the fountain of youth. It just keeps coming. It's fine. But that's paper silver. That's not real silver. So when you hear stories like this about China, we need to start adding silver to our central bank reserves, which we've never done before, in massive scale. I guess they had a tiny bit, 1,000 tons, whatever it is. But now they want to get busy, real busy. So stay tuned. Keep your eyes open, eyes open and ears open, listening, and we'll see what happens. Take care.